Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Booth, along with Molly Lyon, Charlie Hurt, and Chasen Chaffetz, and welcome to the Big Weekend Show. The big story tonight. For the first time ever, former President Trump is tied in national polls going into Election Day. With just 10 days to go until voters cast their final ballots, both candidates are hitting key battleground states today. Trump rallying in Pennsylvania today, pitching his closing arguments to his supporters.
Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I will promise you we're going to end inflation very quickly, and I'll stop the invasion of criminals pouring into our country. They're criminals, and they're pouring in like we've never seen. Kamala broke it, and I will fix it. Starting on day one of my new administration, I will end Kamala Harris's war on Pennsylvania energy, and we will frack. Pennsylvania, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala that you've had enough.
As the latest Fox News power rankings are all forecasting 7 swing states to be a toss-up, a New York Times Siena College poll has both candidates in a deadlock for the popular vote, each at 48%. We have team coverage tonight. Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy in Kalamazoo, Michigan, with Vice President Kamala Harris. But first, we go to Alexis McAdams in State College, Pennsylvania, where the former president wrapped up his rally a short time ago. Alexis.
That's right. A very busy weekend for former President Donald Trump on the campaign trail. We've been traveling with the former president, and he just got off the plane from Michigan, landing here in Pennsylvania. And he's on stage at Penn State with a packed crowd talking about everything from immigration to the economy.
This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of gross incompetence and failure. It's disgusting what they're doing. Or whether we'll begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
Former President Trump hosting 2 rallies in Battleground, Michigan, just hours apart, as polls show the race is tightening, and not just in swing states, but across the country. So nationally, the race is in a dead heat. Check this out. The latest New York Times Siena College poll has Harris and Trump tied 48-48. Okay, so it's anyone's game at this point, especially with the margin of error. Now in Michigan, Trump invited several Muslim leaders up on stage who endorsed him. This comes as he courts Arab American and Muslim voters in this critical battleground state. Many who say they're angry over current U.S. policy on Israel and Gaza.
I'm going to ask all of my friends to come up from the Arab and Muslim part of Michigan. And I'd like to give them a big hand because they're going to vote for us and help us win.
And we've been crisscrossing the country here. The former president is used to this, but I can tell you it takes a lot out of you as you go from state to state, and it's not done yet. We know he's going to be at the iconic Madison Square Garden on Sunday morning. Back to you.
Thank you. I'm tired just watching him. All right, well, the far-left media is melting down on how Kamala Harris has no chance courting the bros. Former President Donald Trump is doubling down on his strategy of reaching young men by sitting down with popular podcast host Joe Rogan for a 3-hour interview and calling out his rival for dodging the real issues and chickening out on Rogan. He didn't hold back.
Can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing this show.
She'd be laying on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might still do it, and I hope she does.
She's not going to do it.
I will talk to her like a human being. I will try to have a conversation with her.
If she did this kind of an interview with you, I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. You'd be saying, call in the medics.
Trump also landing more blows on the vice president.
Kamala's a very low IQ person. They don't respect her. They're dreaming about her because she's incompetent. She's not a smart person. Look, she can't put 2 sentences together. She's not a smart person. She lied about McDonald's. You cannot be voting for Kamala. Kamala, you're not a Kamala person. I know you.
So obviously very entertaining. You wouldn't expect any less from him. But, you know, Charlie, I think what's so interesting about this election cycle is sort of a different media strategy from the former president, right? We've seen with the mainstream media 89% negative coverage for him, but so he's gone to podcasters. He went on X, did that interview with Elon Musk. How do you think that media strategy has shaped this election?
I think it's really interesting because obviously 8 years ago, he was as unorthodox as you could be. He went through the media, he drove through the media, he went over their heads. He tried to reach people in all these, unusual ways. fast forward to today, and he's completely broken the mold yet again, doing it in lots of more new ways. I think that, it's interesting. I kind of was wondering about the strategy of going on with Joe Rogan, 2 weeks before the election, just because a lot of these people are people that he already has or are inclined to vote for him. But Joe Rogan has a monster audience out there. And if he can, as I think he accomplished last night, excite them and gin up the enthusiasm among those voters, or those people who are not necessarily regular voters, but are people who are interested in things and watch Joe Rogan and listen to this. Trump gave him a lot to work with and a lot to be excited about. And I think that we could be looking back at this and say, wow, that really did sort of move the needle.
Well, and a huge audience. I mean, 14.5 million on Spotify, YouTube subscribers, 17.5 million as well. YouGov had a survey last year, 81% men. And there's a lot of discussion about the gender gap, particularly with Trump doing so well with men. He's being called the bro whisperer, Jason. I'm going to get to you with this. So this is what the New York Times says in an op-ed. It says Trump's bro whispering could cost Democrats too many young men. Then it goes on to say this, his playbook, a masterclass in bro whispering, championing crypto, securing the endorsement of Dave Portnoy, the unapologetically offensive founder of Barstool Sports, and giving the UFC president Dana White, who embodies the alpha male archetype that appeals to many young men in prime spot on the the Republican National Convention. Mr. Trump has also cultivated relationships with simpatico comedians, pranksters, influencers, and Silicon Valley billionaires. Jason, there's obviously an effort from the left to trying to court men. And you're talking about an 81% male audience with Joe Rogan, or at least according to last year. Why pass that up for her?
Well, look, Donald Trump has been courting these people for decades. It's real. The difference is authenticity. He's not making this up. He's been friends with Dana White for decades. He's been in the boxing world and the UFC and all this. That's a natural venue for him. He's not faking his way through it. So the idea that he's a bro whisperer, first of all, Donald Trump doesn't whisper anything.
That's a really good point.
And the other part is Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris's biggest problem is she's Kamala Harris. She doesn't know who she is. She is not comfortable in her own skin. She doesn't know what she stands for. She doesn't have the background to be able to articulate, and she's so hesitant to take on these softball interviews that any fifth grader could answer. She cannot do it, and she comes up with these word salads, and you're left saying, use the same word 5 times in one sentence? How do you do that?
You're right. He doesn't whisper. Molly, I want to get into something that Politico wrote about. They said this, they're just over it. How Trump has converted male frustration into a movement. It goes on to say, when photographs of these clean-cut young men in their khaki shorts holding up the flag hit Twitter, a moment was born in America's right-of-center consciousness. Whether intentionally or not, that patriotic tableau connected to the many of the themes animating former President Donald Trump's candidacy and their gender gap that is defining our electorate. Molly, I think what's interesting is it's hard to quantify exactly, but you look after the assassination attempts against Donald Trump and the raising the fist and yelling, fight, fight, fight. You even had critics like Mark Zuckerberg be like, that was bad ASS. I don't know if I can say that on air. And then also you had The Rock call him, these are two people who have been haters of Donald Trump. So I wonder how much his response to that and just the strength and kind of the alphaness of that, how that is played in and translated to this support among men.
I think part of this is just how comfortable he is in all of these types of interviews and how real he is, as you just saw with Rogan, and just, what was it, a week and a half ago with Charlemagne the God. This comfort he has in any atmosphere. He goes to the economic clubs and sits there and has these super long policy discussions, diving into these issues, and he can't talk about tariffs enough. He's in love with tariffs. We all know that now. And I think that's the big appeal, that he's just unapologetically himself. And I don't know, maybe he is a guy's guy. I don't know if I'm the one to determine that.
But remember, it was just a couple weeks ago, the Democrats tried to put up Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz as the big males, that they were alpha males. He couldn't even reload his gun, for goodness sake. It was just such a farce, and everybody could see through it. That's what cracks me up.
Well, so if you want to talk about toxic masculinity, there's some stuff written about him that's not the best. the vice president's husband.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.